brain think better. That's all that matters. But I still have the answers.
You do that number.
Forgot what I just got up to do. What did I just get up?
Yeah.
You got? Oh.
It's on the first show.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I always do my homework.
Okay. So let's see here. All right, let's look at number 7. Okay, what are we going to do first? Yeah, get it equal to 0. So we're going to subtract 2 cosine. So it's going to be 0 equals, this becomes, excuse me, 2 cosine, 2 cosine squared theta minus 3 cosine theta plus 1. Okay, factoring this, we've got 2 and 1, 1 and 1. These have to both be negative. So it's going to factor as 2 cosine theta minus 1 times 1 cosine theta minus 1. Okay. Okay, so we're going to set 2 cosine theta minus 1 equal to 0. And cosine theta minus 1 equals 0. So we get 2 cosine theta equals 1. So cosine theta equals 1/2. So theta equals the inverse cosine of 1/2. You must have that statement in order to get full credit. I made a point of telling you that yesterday. That's okay. But I made a point of saying this yesterday. I know I said it several times, that although this is how our brain is thinking, we're thinking like this, we're solving for the angle. So you need to have that statement.
But what if you didn't write that in, but you wrote like the x was like the angles? No?
You've got to have that extra step.
Okay, so I just
I'm being particular because I made a point of stating it yesterday in class.
So is it so that
You won't get full credit.
Oh, okay.
Okay? I made a point of telling you that in class, so you will not receive full credit.
How many points left?
I don't know, 112. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
What? I moved everything over. So we moved this over, subtracting 2. I got 2 cosine squared. And we move this over, so we get minus 3. And I move that over, so I get plus 1. I don't want to move it this direction because I would have ended up with a negative 2 cosine squared. And you never want a negative in the front. Okay, and then the other side, we've got cosine theta equals 1. So theta equals inverse cosine. Again, you have to have that extra statement. Okay. All right, so let's look at what angles we're talking about. So where is the cosine of the angle equal to 1/2? So that's going to be right here at 60 degrees. So theta equals 60. Over here, this is negative 1/2, so that doesn't work. And here we have negative 1/2, that doesn't work. So this one works, so that's 300 degrees. And then where's the inverse cosine equal to 1? That's going to be right here, which is 0. Do we include the 360? No, we do not. So it's just 0 degrees. So those are the 3 answers. Okay? Yes, sir.
How do you factor it? Like we have the parentheses. I'm confused on that part.
So just think of it as 2x squared minus 3x plus 1. So I factor the 2x squared as 2x and 1x, and we factor the 1 as 1 and 1. They both have to be negative because this is positive, but this is negative. So then just double checking it, 2x times negative 1 is negative 2x. X times negative 1 is negative x, so we get negative 3x, so that's factored correctly. So my factors go straight across.
So the cosine is just like an x pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Let's do number 9. So this one's harder. Why is this harder? Mm-hmm. So let's get everything to one side. So I'm going to do sine squared theta minus cosine squared theta plus sine theta. So which one do you want to substitute out? The cosine, because I have everything else in sine. So sine squared plus, bless you, cosine squared equals 1. So cosine squared equals 1 minus sine squared. So we're going to substitute right here. So we have sine squared minus cosine squared, which is 1 minus sine squared, plus sine equals 0. So this is going to be sine squared plus sine squared, so that's 2 sine squared minus 1 plus sine. Oops, I'm going to rewrite this here. I'm going to write 2 sine squared theta plus sine theta minus 1 equals 0. So again, factoring this, we're treating it just like it was an x, 2x squared plus x minus 1. And that would factor 2x and 1. Excuse me. Okay. So this is going to factor 2 sine theta minus 1 times sine theta plus 1 equals 0. So we have 2 sine theta minus 1 equals 0. Sine theta plus 1 equals 0. So that means sine theta equals positive 1/2, which means theta equals the inverse sine of 1/2. And over here, we're going to get sine theta equals negative 1. So theta equals the inverse sine of negative 1. Okay, so let's see here. Where is the sine 1/2? Here and here, which is 30 degrees and 150 degrees. And where is the sine equal to negative 1? Down here. So 270 degrees. Okay? Okay, what other problems would you like me to do? Yes, regular quiz.
What? Number 10? Or
Yeah, do number 10.
10? Okay, so let's get everything to one side. Since I have 2 terms that include cosine, I'm going to stick with the cosines. So I am going to add cosine squared to both sides. And I'll go ahead and move this sine squared over. So we'll subtract sine squared. So now it's equal to 0. Okay, so I'm going to keep the cosines, and we're going to substitute out the sine squared. So again, we know that sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. So that means sine squared is equal to 1 minus cosine squared. So we'll go ahead and we'll substitute that out. Minus 1 minus cosine squared theta. Okay, so we have cosine squared theta minus cosine theta minus 1 plus cosine squared theta. So this is very similar to the other problem. So we have 0 equals 2 cosine squared theta minus cosine theta minus 1. So we're going to factor that as, let's see, 2 cosine theta minus 1 times cosine theta plus 1. Oops, and I got my signs mixed up. Right, when I FOIL, I get negative 2 cosine theta, positive 1 cosine theta. So that'll add up to negative cosine theta. Okay, so that means that we have 2 cosine theta equals negative 1. So cosine theta equals negative 1/2, which means theta equals the inverse cosine of negative 1/2. And here we have cosine theta equals 1. So theta equals the inverse cosine of positive 1. Very similar to the other problem. Okay, where is the cosine equal to negative 1/2? Well, x is negative over here. So we're looking at negative 1/2 right here and right here. 120 and what was the other? 240. Good. And then where does cosine equal positive 1? 0. And that's it. Okay. Okay. So, sample problems. I can't make these up myself.
So is this what that will be on our quiz?
No. There's more. There's more. Additional. That's why I say it as additional. Okay. So. All right, how about this one? Let's oops. There we go. Let's say that we have 4 cosine squared x minus 3 equals 0. Let's solve that one. Why would I just add 1?
For the other
Okay, how would you solve it if it was 4x squared minus 3 equals 0? How would you solve that? Zach?
I would plug in plus 0x, different is x squared. You solve it.
To do what? Why would you plug it in plus 0x?
It's easy.
Does it? To
I
do,
find it easy.
and then if you did that, what would you do?
Yeah, I just solve it like
Using a quadratic formula? Okay, you could. You could. Yeah,
I would take the square root of it and then try and solve it.
almost. Can't take the square root yet. Add the 3 first. Yeah. Let's add 3 first. So we get 4 cosine squared x equals 3. Right? And then what? Oh. Thank you very much. All right. Got the instructions on there. Okay. Something for my husband.
Now, do you take the square root?
No.
Divide by 4?
Divide by 4.
Would it be the same if you took the square root first?
It makes it more complicated because when we take the square root, we're going to get cosine x equals plus or minus the square root of 3 over 4. If we left the 4 over here when we took the square root, we might miss that plus or minus part. Okay? So we don't want to, we want to isolate the term that's being squared. Okay, so this means cosine x equals plus or minus square root of 3 over 2. So that means x equals the inverse cosine of plus or minus square root of 3 over 2. Now, it would not be wrong to do it the way Zach said and basically add that 0x in there and then use a quadratic formula. But if you can factor, factoring is always going to be faster. Okay, if you see that it factors. Of course, we know that if you don't see the factor, the quadratic formula is going to be quicker. But anytime the b term is missing, anytime you have this, it is going to be faster not to use a quadratic formula. It's always going to be faster to isolate the x squared and then take the square root of both sides. Okay? Okay, so let's look at our solution here. How many solutions are we going to have? 4, yeah. Because we're looking at a plus or minus. So we're right here, 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 and here. So x equals 30. What else? 150. 330. Yes, very good. Okay, very good. Okay, let's look at another one. Okay. I am going to look at this one. 9 cosine x plus 2 equals 3. What can we do? Okay, so 9 cosine x equals 1. Divide by 9. So cosine, or inverse, x equals the inverse cosine of 1 over 9. Is that one that we can do on our unit circle? No. So we're going to go to our calculator. You think it's 15? I don't know. We'll find out. Make sure I'm in degree mode. And we're going to do the inverse cosine of 1 over 9. Is that what it was? Yeah. And we get 83.62 degrees. Okay. X equals 83.62 degrees. Now, let's make sure that that's the only angle. Okay. So approximately, right, 83.62, that's like up here somewhere, right? So my reference angle, this angle right here, is 83.62. Okay. We're looking for a positive value for cosine. So which quadrant, we already know that cosine is positive in quadrant 1. What other quadrant is cosine positive? Which one? 4. 4. It's positive down here. The x is positive down here. Okay. So what we have to do now is look at the reference angle of 83.62 in this quadrant. So that means this is another solution right here. I just have to figure out what angle that is. How do I figure out what angle that is? Yes. 360 minus 83.62. Okay, 360 minus 83.62. 276.38. So x also equals 276.38 degrees. So our calculator kind of got us started with the reference angle, but then I have to do the thinking for the rest of it. Okay? I have to know how to interpret my calculator results. Okay, let's look at another one of those. Let's look at okay, I'm not sure if this one comes out, how this one comes out, so let's just check it. Let's do 4 sine squared x minus 2 cosine x minus 1 equals 0. What can we do? What can we do? Change this sine squared to cosine squared. Okay, so sine squared x plus cosine squared x equals 1. So sine squared x equals 1 minus cosine squared x. Okay, so we've got 4. And instead of sine squared, I'm going to put 1 minus cosine squared. Minus 2 cosine x minus 1 equals 0. So we're going to distribute the 4. 4 minus 4 cosine squared x minus 2 cosine x minus 1 equals 0. Now what? All right, combine like terms. Negative 4 cosine squared x minus 2 cosine x plus 3. Then what?
Cosine x plus 1, negative 2 cosine x plus 3. Factor into that.
Okay, you want to leave that as negative? Because I think factoring it when that leading term is negative can get confusing. I'm going to move everything over. 0 equals positive 4 cosine squared x plus 2 cosine x. Yes?
Hi there, can I please have Ava Fells in the front office for just a moment?
She is not in this class.
Fabulous, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we've got 4 cosine squared x plus 2 cosine x minus 3. So let's see, let's try factoring that as 2 and 2, 3 and 1. This has to be negative, so one of these has to be negative. That gives us 6 minus 2. That does not work. Okay, let's try 1 and 4. That's not going to work either. So if it doesn't factor, what do we do? Zach, what do we do if it doesn't factor? Quadratic formula. Okay, so let's just work over here. 4x squared plus 2x minus 3. So x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Right? So again, we're just going to kind of work with this as though it was just x and not cosine x. Okay? So we get negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 plus, because we have a negative times a negative, 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 3 is 48 over 8. Did I do that right? Okay. Which equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 52 over 8. So we need to simplify that radical. So let's see, 52 is 4 times, how much? 13? Okay, so this will be negative 2 plus or minus 2 root 13 over 8, which reduces to negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 8. Woo-wee! But instead of x, it is cosine. So we have cosine x equals negative 1 plus root 13 over 8. And cosine x equals negative 1 minus root 13 over 8. Yes, sir.
Is the a supposed to be a 4?
Once you simplified it,
Yeah, good catch. Thank you. Good job. Over 4. Okay. Okay, so we use the quadratic formula, but then when we go back, remember it's not x, it's cosine x. Okay, so that means x equals the inverse cosine of negative 1 plus root 13 over 4, and x equals inverse cosine of negative 1 minus root 13 over 4. Now, I'm not sure if these are going to give us answers or not, right? Because I know the cosine has to be between the negative 1 and 1. So we're going to double check and see if this works. So let's use our calculator. So we've got inverse cosine of negative 1 plus root 13. Whoops, I got to go back and use the correct parentheses here. because this whole thing is divided by 4. And we got an answer. Okay, and then let's check the other one. And that one gives me an error. So, why did that one give me an error? Well, if I took the cosine, inverse cosine part off, okay, that's below -1. I've got to be between -1 and 1, so that's why that didn't work. If I take the cosine of, it's not going to work. When this was a plus, that worked. That's within the space that I need. Okay, so I get 49.35, right? So this one right here, this did not work. This one did. So x equals 49.35. Everybody understand that, what we did there? Yes.
We're gonna have to remember
That's that formula.
Rememberize what?
the
The quadratic formula? Oh, yeah, you should be able to say that in your sleep by now in honors pre-calculus in April. Absolutely. You learned that in Algebra 1. That's something you should know. X is equal to -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2. Well, you need to learn it and you must know it. Something that you must know. Okay. Put a picture of it in your bedroom. Put it in your mirror. Not that you look in the mirror a lot. Just put it in your mirror. Okay. Okay. So there's my value. So is that my answer? No. Because that's only possibly one answer. How did I get what? Because when I did inverse cosine of -1 plus the square root of 13 over 4, right, I got 49.35. Okay? So I have to look at that on my unit circle. Here's my 49.35. 49.35. Okay. That's positive. Where else is cosine positive? Down here. So this reference angle is 49.35. So what's the other answer? 360 minus 49.35. So we get 310.65. Okay. So you have to pay attention to what you're solving for. Let me just double check something here before I give you this assignment. Ooh, let me see here. Okay, so I have a Delta Math assignment for you. So I would like you to do this, but listen, I will hold off on your quiz until Monday. Okay?
Why is that better? Go back to
How long do you have for Delta Math?
the. But Miss Murray, can you drink water, please?
No.
Not 5 minutes.
No. Probably gonna fall asleep then.
Okay, so your Delta Math assignment should be available at this point. Please make sure you can access it. Okay. This is due by 8 a.m. Thursday morning.
Are you sure you put in the right period?
Why are you not seeing it?
It's a Google Classroom. It's Delta.
Are you not seeing it, Lindy?
I don't know. I'm checking now. I'm trying to. I like
Oh, no, it's-
swiped out.
no, it's there.
refreshed it.
Okay.
Cool. You really gotta get that clock checked out, man.